The president of the Trade Union Congress, Quadri Olaleye, has stated that the union has issued an ultimatum for an industrial action if the federal government continues to delay the implementation of the new 30,000 naira minimum wage, which was signed by the president on April 18, 2019. Now, he added that the Congress could not or would not even shift position on its demand for a new minimum wage. So we have in the studio this evening to have this conversation Babashola Adebuyi. He's a political analyst. It's good for you to join us.
It's a pleasure.
All right. And we also still have in the studio Dotun Alaribibe. He's a political analyst. Thank you for staying with us. But quickly, let's go to a few months before elections when the labor, we call them the organized labor, were agitating for this minimum wage, which is 30,000 naira. Let's listen to what they had to say.
If we reduce stealing, if we reduce the cost of governance, we will be able to pay 30,000 minimum wage. We have also said any governor that cannot pay, let him go back to his state and use the opportunity of today's rally to tell his workers that it cannot pay. And let him give us reason. We will tell him more than 1,000 reasons on why we think that they can be able to pay.
We are in a political season. You can see the hundreds of millions of dollars being spent by people in the position of power. If they have money for campaigns, why can't they have money to pay our workers? That is untenable. That is unacceptable.
All right, so that's a short clip of what happened just in the thick of the elections, and they ended with an interesting statement by a former senator from Kaduna State, Shehu Sani. So I'll start with you. I'm just wondering, maybe he has a point. If we have so much money to run ads, and these monies are not necessarily donated by taxpayers, these are monies that you have to run all of these campaigns, why is it so difficult to pay these workers?
Well, the first question I will ask is, when Shehu Sani was in the House, what was the contribution to reduction in cost of governance?
Shehu Sani was the man who actually raised an alarm as to how much they were earning in the National Assembly. He actually...
Well, it's possible for you to raise alarm.
But he's one person.
The next step, what step did he take afterwards?
He's one person.
There are ways to fight a cause. There are ways to go about it. Number one, you can influence, sponsor union. Number two, your members in the House of National Assembly. There are some of them that will understand that has the picture. All they just need is someone to lead. You get? That's number two. Number three now is the union bodies we have in this country, as far as I'm concerned, they are not serious.
How do you mean?
Okay. The same members of the union are those that are carrying suitcases for the National Assembly members, for the government. They are the same people that will tell the government how to make more money by diverting for funds, some funds from the federal government account.
This is an allegation. Do you have proof?
If we are talking of corruption, stealing from the government treasury, a politician that is coming in newly does not have a clue of how it's being done. It is those in government that we teach the politicians.
So you're making reference to the public and the civil servants. That's what you're talking about.
Exactly. They are part of the union we are talking about. They are both in TUC, NLC, I think there's another one, ULC too. Mm-hmm. They are all in those bodies we are talking about. So until they stop helping them to steal, diversion of state or federal government funds, what we are talking about today would have been a thing of the past. That's number one. Number two, why I just read, I think before coming in now, the federal government has started paying, but although it's now below 30,000 naira, the specific amount is not even stated. It's not even stated. Why wait till the union threaten the federal government? Why wait till you not threaten the federal government before you implement what has been signed since April 18? If I remember very well, this 30,000 naira minimum wage was agreed last year.
It was.
It was agreed last year. It was taken to the National Assembly. The National Assembly approved this sometimes in March, and the federal government April 18. Then the question is, why the delay of about 3 months, May 18, June 18, July 18? Why the delay of about 3 months? It shows that there is a political calculation in everything the government is doing, and it does not speak well of the government.
All right, back to you, Dawson. For some people, I mean, I was one of the people who was asking questions such as, there are states who are even unable to pay the 18,000 minimum wage. I mean, for a long time, Rauf Aregbesola was unable to pay salaries. With all of the tranches of Paris Club refund, he was still unable to pay salaries. And so I was wondering if that kind of state was going to be able to, even if they were pressured to accept, were they going to be able to pay the salaries, this minimum wage? And here we are.
Obviously, they cannot pay. You see, but I want to go back to Shehu Sani talking about campaign funds, or whoever was talking about campaign funds. You see, you need to understand that the campaign funds must come, because that's the fund they're going to use to hold you down. It's a given.
Just so we expatiate on what you mean by hold you down.
That is the populace. You see, they have to come with money to buy your vote. To give you 1,000 naira and give you the acre of rice, so that you sell the next 4 years. Then you go back and start agitating for whatever. You see, but having said that, in Nigeria, we apply wrong solutions, to problems. Labor now, since the days of Adams or Shio Mole, we intended the only potency labor has is asking for more money. What do you want to do with more money? See, what is the productive base of Nigeria? You bring more money to inflation, simple and period. Because what we are producing has not expanded. I'm an economist.
No, you've touched on something I'm very interested in. We have so many people in the civil service, and with due respect to all the people that are in the civil service, I once worked in the civil service, so I have an idea. But as you talked about productivity, what is the level of productivity from the civil service? What value have they been adding over the years to the economy, the general economy of the country, as compared to the amount of money they're asking for? Because there have been times where people have called that there be a shrinking of the civil service for more productivity. We have so many ministries, departments, and agencies that seem to be doing the same thing. So maybe that's a start, although some people might disagree.
You see, talking of that one, when I did my youth service in 1981, I first worked in Alausa, Economic Development and Land Matters, There was nothing to do. I had to walk away. That is the civil service for you. I don't have any good word for the civil service. But that is not my concern. You see, look at...
Why isn't it your concern? Because this, I mean, whether we like it or not, this is part of Nigeria's problem.
Yes. What I'm saying is that is part of the wrong solutions that we want to apply to our problems. You see, what we need in this country is to restructure. Look at, for instance, you're taking oil from the South-South, right? Taking it to the national ports. Go and see the gold mining going on in Zamfara and all those places. Every time gold mining, these are not miscreants digging. You have companies from Russia and everything embedded there doing mining.
Illegally?
Illegally, to us, because it is not captured in the national ports. But who are the people behind it? The top guns, you see? So mining in Zamfara is controlled by the military top guns, political top guns. The money goes directly to their pocket. It does not come to our common patrimony. Where's Aregbesola or whoever is there not going to get money to pay for salary? We need to restructure. We need devolution of powers, We need to control the resources under our soil. Then we pay royalty, like we started when we went to Republic in 1963. That's where we need to go.
But there are some states who may not necessarily be as economically viable as the rest. For example, a state like Anambra is flourishing under this government. There's a lot of magic happening. However they're doing it is great. But there are states like Abia that has, on its own, it's a country on its own. You have a rivers and an Akwa Ibom where there is oil. But there are states like, let's say Katsina, But there is also a Kaduna that has a good, let's just say, let's say they're agrarian in nature, but there are also states that have absolutely nothing. So how can we put those states side by side to say, oh, let's make money from the states and then send what we can to the federal government? I don't know, can that really work?
There's no state that doesn't have something. It is indolence of leadership. That is the bane of Nigeria. Every state has something. You see, Nigeria has no business being underdeveloped, right? Nigeria is a potential world power. We have not even started tapping into our potentials. You see, we are underutilized in its entirety. See, every state has something to offer, you know. You see, but with the constitution we're operating, say this is exclusive to the federal government. Look at the Railway Act. Look at electricity. When we came, Tinubu brought Enron. What did he bring that time? You told us Enron has to go and supply that power into the national grid. What are you talking about?
Let's look at solutions now, because they're not going to back down from the look of things. And of course, the government is doing that fire in the mountain thing. They're paying, although we do not know how much they're paying. What is the way out of this? He's saying restructuring, but that also seems like a political term that we throw around every time, you know, we find ourselves in a little quagmire. What's the way forward?
Number one, the union need to understand something, that they have a lot of things to do. Just like he mentioned there, it's not about fighting for increment in salary. Number one, we need to fight for the value of money. That's where we have lost it. The value of money is more important. 30,000 naira, what can 30,000 naira buy? Honestly, if I have 30,000 naira now, within the next 10 or 5 or 15 minutes, it's gone. That's just the truth. Yes. What can I do with 30,000 naira as a minimum wage? What is important is the value of money. And when we are talking about the value of money, it's about increase in production, productivity. The economy development of this nation is low. The states we are mentioning, like you mentioned, there is no state that is not viable. There is no state without resources.
So is it laziness or lack of foresight? What exactly is the problem?
It's not about the laziness alone. The docility of our leaders in respect of fighting for resources for some things that are under exclusive list to be brought to the concurrent list. Let the state be in charge of mining. Let them be in charge of resource control. Let me put it that way. Resources control.
Would we not have to revisit the constitution on that matter?
We need to.
We need to.
I mean,
but that's going to take a process, a very long one, I presume.
It's not a long process.
It's not a long process.
You see, if there's sincerity of purpose, these are things we can do. You see, but like I said earlier, indolence, you know, at the highest hierarchy of Nigeria. Buhari is just unfortunate he's surrounded by this kind of people. Look at this minimum wage you're talking about now. You don't know, he has said they've started paying something. You see, but look at now. You came to an agreement on minimum wage. Like we say, the devil is in the detail. The government side of the technical committee wants to peg you on budgetary allocation. That's the problem we have now. Budget, what has been allocated in budget now is what the government side of the technical committee wants to peg everybody on. You see, TUC is saying this thing, NLC is saying another thing. Say, no, their negotiation is going on smoothly. It's the relativity and consequential adjustment between level 7 to 14, the increment, then 15 to 17. And what is the population of the civil service compared to the money they are taking away inside the system? So when you say minimum wage, the minimum wage you're talking about is not just 30,000, no. All the things that come attached with 30,000 is what they're talking about. So Labour is saying, okay, we can reduce to 66%. No, federal side said no. Labour said, okay, we can't at 30%. Federal side said no. We'll give you 9.5% on 7 to 14. Then we'll give you 5% on 15 to 17. Everybody's being clever by half. That's not what we need. We don't need that rubbish.
Wow. It sounds more like we're in a fix. It's like, you know, we might not necessarily be able to get out of this if we don't try the restructuring that you talked about.
We're not getting out of it.
Wow. Thank you very much, Babashola Adeguyi, political analyst, and Dotun Olaribibe, political analyst. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. We'll take a short break and bring you our plus packages, and when we return, I'll be giving you my take.
The Nigeria Police Force has arrested 13 suspects responsible for the kidnap of the district head of Douara in Katsina State. The Force Public Relations Officer, ACP Frank Mba, while parading about 40 other suspects arrested in relation to crimes bordering on kidnapping, murder, attempted murder, unlawful possession of weapons, among others, said all the suspects have confessed to their crimes. Mba said that Operation Puff Ada is committed to bringing an end to crimes and criminality.
Today, I respectfully present before you a total of 40 male suspects. All have been indicted for their roles in multiple crimes across the land, particularly for crimes bordering on kidnapping, armed robbery, cattle rustling, murder, as well as attempted murder. We also have some of the suspects here before us today implicated positively, clearly, in cases of unlawful possession of weapons. Out of these 40 suspects, 13 of them are directly linked with the heinous crime touching on the kidnap of the Magejingeri Daura, who was kidnapped and held incommunicado for several weeks.
Well, it's time for my take. Let's start with the Miyetti Allah calling for the president to arrest former President Obasanjo for his open letter and alleging that he is trying to make the Fulanese somewhat look bad. I'm just wondering, we have a case of insecurity on our hands, and I'm beginning to sound like a broken record, but I don't mind, because we have to keep talking about this and harping on the issue. We have an issue of insecurity on our hands. I remember some years ago, Obasanjo did say that Nigeria was sitting on a keg of gunpowder. I'm thinking it's still relevant today. We're playing in kids' gloves with an issue that is very serious, and the federal government and all our security apparatuses acting or playing the ostrich. And we, the people, are somewhat blowing hot and cold. And human lives are being plucked away every single day. Yet, we hear nothing from the government. Instead, we're seeing courtesy visits and people trying to be politically correct. Is this how we want to build the Nigeria that we want? Is this the next level that we are supposed to be getting from this administration? And this is ditto for every government that has ever led this country. We seem not to address issues affecting the populace, the people you so pledged to lead. We never ever deal with those issues head on. And I'm wondering why. Maybe we the people have become somewhat docile and we do not care about the numbers of people that are dying every single day. Is it because it's not our brother, not our family members, it's not our friends? Maybe we need to scream a bit louder, because I'm really wondering what we need to do to get the people who call themselves our leaders to protect us, because that's their number one job. Again, moving on to Labour, especially the TUC, who's getting ready to go on strike yet again, because the federal government, who made a promise to pay the 30,000 naira minimum wage, has not necessarily done anything about it. Although we hear rumours that, they will soon pay. But I'm wondering, there are states who have not been able to pay the 18,000 naira minimum wage, and yet 30,000 naira is pending. What do we really prioritize in this country when it comes to the people yet again? The people. A man who works deserves his pay. Which way, Nigeria? Which way, Nigerian leaders? Which way, federal government? Which way, Buhari administration? How do we deal with these issues without looking like a joke to the international community? It's time for us to wake up to the realities of Nigeria and deal with it head on. Don't wait for government to have a change of heart. Make them have a change of heart. Don't ask me how. We all have different ways that we can get the leaders that we put there to hear us, and we need to start exploring those avenues today. My name is Maryann, and it's been Plus Politics. Do have a great day.